Greetings. This is Skyler Saunders seeing what's current. Now this is a bit of a departure from yesterday's show, which was very serious and very weighty. But I want to talk about film. I want to talk about the Film Festival in particular. I want to say how I'm inspired by various filmmakers such as Martin Scorsese and Wes Anderson, and they have their films either presenting like Scorsese or in competition for the highest award, the Palme d'Or, with Wes Anderson. Uh, I just love the movies. I've loved the movies since I was 3 or 4 years old, and it took me time. I've explained this that it took me a while to understand what the different dynamics of uh, presentation were. I had one idea where actors, I didn't understand necessarily that actors were on the screen. I just thought they were just regular people playing out different roles. And the next step, I had to figure out that there was a screenwriter or screenwriters behind the different films that wrote the actual dialogue and the scenes. Then I had to figure out, at the age of 13 or 14, that there was a director that was combining all the elements of filmmaking, including painting, including audio, including visual effects, and other elements, and they had to be all together. And then producers had to, put forth the effort to get the movie money, to have it have sets and different, and everyone paid, and all the different aspects that go into making a movie. So with Cannes, it is probably one of the highest honors to receive the Palme d'Or uh, in film history. There have been various people who have received this, and Americans, including Michael Moore, which I'm not a big fan of, but he nonetheless achieved that award. And also, there's a whole list of other people that were deserving of such a high honor. And with the various amounts of people going into Hollywood system, into the art world of film, it takes precedence, and it probably takes a lot more than what most people would imagine. Uh, it takes to become an actor, director, writer, producer. We just take it for granted that these people, work their tails off, and we don't really get to see much. And especially with the lockdown of Hollywood for the most part because of the writer's strike, it's become increasingly difficult for people to address what they want to do with their film careers. And living under this age of streaming, we have, the genie out of the bottle. That you're not going to be able to put the genie back in. Um, you got you have so many different aspects. You have Swedish films, Indian films, Brazilian films. So many nations and countries that produce work in the film industry, and that's what's so important to realize, that they have the possibility, they have the power to go to places like Cannes and make it known to the world what they did in their own country, just to go on to the south of France. And Johnny Depp is a great example of this because he lives in France. And he's not been blackballed by Hollywood, and he doesn't feel like he's been blackballed by Hollywood. He doesn't pay Hollywood any mind. He's not worried about what's going on in La La Land. He has his own concerns. He's concerned with his own movie. I think it's called Jean Bras. If I'm mistaken, put it in the comment section. Um, I think he's one of the greatest actors to ever grace the screen. He definitely put in the work over decades of time, and he should be commended for his efforts. I don't think he's ever won an Oscar. So, to be within the French arena, he's probably more comfortable there than he was in America. And he takes it seriously. He takes his life seriously. He takes the film industry seriously, and what he does is very important. He takes a lot of he, okay, here it is. Jean de Barry. That's his latest movie, Jean de Barry. And he has instructed himself to become one of the best ever. Good morning, Courtney W. Representing. Don't forget that the goal for today is $10. I'm trying to raise $10 today. See if we can get there. Use my PayPal, use my Cash App, share with a friend, let other people know. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Now, back to the movie festival. I think movies are like a drug. They're more of a drug than food. I think books are like food. But movies are like quick and it hits you, almost viscerally, but it hits you intellectually as well. It hits you with every scene that goes by. It gives you the opportunity to look into the what the director's lens was like, seeing what he or she felt was best and possible, and could be made into a major motion picture. That's what's amazing. You got movies coming from Cameroon, from different places, other people, Morocco, and other countries in Africa, which is almost unheard of in certain circumstances because it's such a poor continent and they're poor countries. But some countries have money, like Nigeria, but for the most part, Africa is very, very developed in a developing state. So when you have filmmakers that are able to convey a message via their art, that's extremely important, extremely noteworthy of the possibilities of making movies. That's what makes it so possible for men and women to go out there with cameras, shoot the landscape, shoot the portraits, have lighting, have mics, have gaffers, have best boys, grips, everybody that you see in credits that you might fast forward or skip over. But these are very important people because without them they wouldn't be a film, and without screenwriters there wouldn't be movie dialogue or action scenes, and without directors there wouldn't be a cohesive nature where all these elements are put together, and producers there wouldn't be a movie without producers because they provide the money and the means for movies to take off. And of course, the most hated, and for whatever reason, the gatekeepers, the executives at the studios, they make sure that the movie is possible in the first place. Without the gatekeepers and the executives, there would be no movie. There would just be a script that's written. There'd just be a director sitting on his hand or her hands, and they'll be waiting for the right call to come in. But it doesn't take any more than just the way that so many of the people are maligned and denigrated for the fact that they're productive individuals. I don't mean producer wise in the film sense. I mean productive creators, makers, and builders. I mean people that don't have any time for waste, that make huge risks and make it possible for us to see those films. Of all the thousands of films that are made every year, there should be 10,000 or 100,000 or a million a year. And with streaming services, that's starting to become a reality because you can definitely send them to various, streaming services and have them evaluated and have them watched by whomever wishes to see them. That's that's something that is very important, and that's what Cannes provides. I learned that there's a system, a rating system that critics get when they get to the film festival, and they wait patiently anticipating the various movies that come down the pike. And in one instance, one of the critics, he was saying how the new Indiana Jones movie wasn't so good. But I never really got into the Indiana Jones series. I only like certain scenes. The one scene where the guy has the sword and he's flashing it and waving it all around, and Indiana Jones just pulls out a gun and shoots him. That just summed up so much, metaphors for life. You're dealing with a problem that's got all these complications and everything, and it's probably just one simple answer that you have to find out. And that's what I got from Indiana Jones. I didn't really get anything much else from that series. But Cannes will be premiering that film, and it will be it or has already premiered the film, and it looks like audiences probably sided with the critic, for the most part. But you have so many different films, from different countries and different backgrounds that you have the opportunity to have like a buffet. You can pick and choose which movies you want to watch. Some movies take more people. It takes more people to get in, and you could be waiting for 5 hours outside online to get to the front of the line and be turned away because so many people want to get into the theater to view these movies, these films. Because some people make distinctions between movies and films. Because movies are like popcorn, going to see a pure entertainment. Very little substance, but still entertaining and very valuable in that sense. But a film is more serious, even if it has elements of humor. It has more of a drive towards being sincere and a darker tone sometimes, or even a lighter tone, but it still supposed to be taken as serious. And that's mainly the difference between movies and films. But I like to interchange because they're both they're as themselves, not necessarily even to entertain or enlighten, but just because they were made and they're breathing real live things instead of just being hollowed out, nothings. They're actual human, almost human in a sense, almost like animals in a sense, almost like plants in a sense. They're alive. We talk about them like we talk about in books. In the present tense, he slays the giant. She goes down the street. We talk about it in present tense because it's a living thing in a sense. That's one of the best opportunities for us to realize how we have this opportunity to see these films and have them make all the difference in making our lives better. Films should enrich. I remember, just various films. I mean, as much as I do not respect Spike Lee because he's a racist, he's a pretty good filmmaker. Here he was. Do the Right Thing, cinematically, is a masterpiece. Thematically, it is a disaster. And in that movie, there are various, elements that seem like vignettes or like little stories within a big story. And they all congeal and form one entity. They all have in their own right, they all have in their own right the way that most people would, you know, discard, the ideas. But he made a great movie. And he has made better made movies than that. I'd say Inside Man is his greatest film to date. Quentin Tarantino is familiar with Palme d'Or, or at least Cannes Film Festival. I'm not sure if he actually won a Palme d'Or, but he probably came very close to it. Um, he he had one of his most famous films, Pulp Fiction. He did. He won. For Pulp Fiction. Quentin Tarantino won the Palme d'Or. Okay, so with that in mind, he had his whole condition all together. That film blew my mind away. Much like Do the Right Thing. Do the Right Thing blew my mind away in a lot of respects. But Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, that was definitely in vignettes. That was definitely in little stories that mounted to a big story and told in non-linear fashion. Actually, it's good. I'm going to say, Courtney, it's good afternoon, by the way. If you're still watching, it's good afternoon. If she is still on. Unless you're in a different part of the world. You might be in the West Coast, but I'm in the East Coast. And it's afternoon. But anyway, all the different movies, all the different films, whatever you want to call them, up to that point when I saw Pulp Fiction, it did something for me. It made me anxious. It made me released. It made me, feel congenial and happy in a sense, almost like, joyous. And then it made me feel shocked and awed and appalled in a lot of scenes and disgusted in a lot of scenes. I'm not going to get into them, especially with Ving Rhames. That's all I'm going to say. Because if you know about that one scene. Yeah, if you don't know, go rent the video. Or go rent the video like it's 1993. Go, go stream it on one of the services. And so I just want to acknowledge the men and women who, continue to be on the vanguard for creating these films, because they're part of us. They're our lives, and especially Americans. Americans get probably the most press when they go to south of France. All the filmmakers and actors and stars, they get the most attention because of America's history with film. You can take Edison. Some say he stole it from the the brothers. Edison had in his mind his idea for moving pictures, and he had an idea for George Méliès. It was alleged that he stole from him, George Méliès, and didn't really give credit to them. But that's not unfounded. Edison was a genius. He was literally a genius and he knew what he was doing. That's one of the best parts about anything. You know what you're doing. You have the wherewithal, you have the gall to do it. You have the ability to say what you want and how you want it done. And that's what Edison did with the phonograph and so hundreds of other inventions. But among them was, perfecting the filmmaking business. Because for those who don't know, the first Hollywood was in New Jersey. It was during the late 19th century, early 20th century that New Jersey was the site for making movies. Then came the mid 20s and 30s, where the studios in California rose up and they overtook the industry in New Jersey. But what's most important is the fact that you had someone like Edison who could see the future. He saw where this was going. He said, "It's all right. You can take it from Jersey to California. That's fine. But at the same time, I'm going to be making my own money, with electricity production, and have a whole industry built up around that." With movies, it's like being set on, you know, you're popping down, into the seat with your bucket of popcorn, and you're anxiously watching, waiting for the movie to start, either in your house or at the theater, and you're enjoying every moment of it. Hopefully it's good. Has you on the edge of your seat and has it crackling with excellent dialogue, has the best action sequences, has the best, costume and set decoration, and all the different costumes that go into it. Because flops and movies that aren't made well are not the same. Just because a movie flopped doesn't mean that it's not a great movie. Just because a movie doesn't do well at the box office doesn't mean it's not a great movie. I'll give you an example. Gattaca. Gattaca did moderately well, but it is my favorite science fiction movie. It's an excellent portrayal of individualism and wanting to get the best out of life, no matter the stakes or the risks involved. And that's what was so important about that movie. Now you have, different, directors I mentioned, like Martin Scorsese, who has frequently collaborated with both Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio. And they're going to be premiering a movie called Killers of the Flower Moon. And that addresses the killing of the murders of the people in Osage in the West, in the tribal factions, by these white men. And it's basically telling you the story about the building blocks for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. It's basically telling you the various outcomes of how these two men, these two vicious, evil men, were able to murder these people and have it jumpstart the FBI. It sounds compelling to me. I want to watch it. It comes from a book, and let me see, is a book, it's a nonfiction book. It's a nonfiction book by this young man named David Graham. And so he is, launched into, he has a few other books. Um, The Lost City of Z and other works, such as The White Darkness and The Devil and Sherlock Holmes. Um, it's amazing when you have, one art form or one, platform come into existence and it be something of value, and then you can transform it into a film and have that be of value. That's the nature and the beauty of film. So many ideas floating around, Another example of a flop, a flat out flop. And that's what's so crazy about our current life. When a movie can make $34 million and it's called a flop. $34 million. And there's people literally dying on the streets in some cities. And we call a $34 million movie a flop, or box office, $34 million. That's Steve Jobs. Excellent movie. Great writing from my favorite screenwriter, one of my favorite directors, Aaron Sorkin. He brought to the table such enlightening, invigorating, and powerful dialogue that I think people just, were thinking like, oh, this is a talkie. It's too much talk. But I love talk. I love when actresses and actors can engage each other with different verbiage and go back and forth and, tit for tat with witty barbs and smart dialogue. That, invigorates me. That's engrossing in my mind. That's what I think is most special. And you have so many people that are, contending for. I'm trying to think of a movie that's made a lot of money but was really trash. I mean, there are some movies like that. Transformers movies, I can agree with Mr. Terrain on that level. And they make you're looking at everything going before your face, and you're like, what is going on here? And it's like all this, lights and sounds and different things going at you at one time, and you're trying to make sure you understand what's going on. And there's no script, there's no real dialogue or great, wordplay. And that's fine too, because that's what the audience wants. Same thing with every Fast and Furious movie beyond the first one. I loved the first one. The first installment was excellent. It had great action. It had a great storyline, albeit, manufactured and expected. But at the same time, you could follow it and made sense. But these recent ones are just like, can we make this explosion bigger? Can we make this car scene go faster? Can we make these cars crash into each other further? Like, those are the considerations that they make when they have storylines that don't add up to much. They say, "Oh, the people are gonna like this." They're very second-handed. They think, "Oh, what are other people going to think about this?" Instead of saying, we should be thinking on our own what this scene should be. And that's the problem with when all of these movies, every last one of them, they're all second-handed. Very few, if not going to say all, very few of them are single-handed or only-handed or handled by one individual and then collaborated on by others. But in today's world, it has been, for decades in Hollywood and elsewhere, the idea that we need a test group, we need to see how many people have, their eyes set on this. How many people like the dialogue? How many people don't like the dialogue? How many people would consider it more of a challenge to see men and women fight against each other? And that's the problem. That's part of why the strikers are striking. And I made my comments about that already. They're not worried about Sudan or Bakhmut. They're worried about their own paychecks, which is rational, which I'm in favor of. Yes, they should be striking. But they're not in favor of that. They're in favor of altruism, giving to others at your own expense, denigrating and degrading yourself for others. That's what altruism is. It's not being kind. It's not being polite. It's not being nice. It's giving of yourself fully without regard for yourself. Giving up a greater value for a lesser or non-value. That's altruism. And that's what Hollywood and other industries thrive on. They thrive on the fact that, other people are more important. But then you have the strikers out there, and they're, worried about their own money. They're worried about their own paycheck. And I'm all for that. But I'm not for them going against the gatekeepers or the executives, who should shrug. They should shrug. Bob Iger of Disney should shrug. And many more. They should shrug. Because they are the ones that make sure that these films get the green light in the first place. That's a fact. So when it comes to different people trying to come into the business, seeking that fame, wanting those dollars, it's important to realize that we have many people struggling. People are struggling in the streets. People are saying that, it's impossible for them to climb up out of their situation. Such is not the case. Tyler Perry lived in his car for many a moon. He was very, focused and determined, going to church basements, going to school auditoriums, and showcasing his plays, all receiving, little to no money for his efforts. So he kept on fighting. He kept on going. He kept it moving. And he took over the play circuit, made millions of dollars off of the plays. Then he said, I'm going to Hollywood. He took $5 million budgets based on the demographic he knew he could tap into, older women, or black women especially, but people in between as well. But he knew that that was a demographic that he could tap into. And for $5 million, he would gross $50 million. So that's a great margin right there. So you have, a string of films that he made, all for about $5 to $10 million. And he was able to make so much money that he's now a billionaire. And in talks of buying BET. And he started in a car. As so many other actors and actresses have started as well. And admit to it. And are, maybe not proud of it, but just acknowledge the fact that they were at that state once upon a time. That's what movies and films can do. They can transform lives. They can create within them great amounts of pleasure and understanding and just an amount of comprehending life. And like I said, movies are like drugs. They're 2 to 3 hours long, 3 hours max. I mean, of course, there have been 4 hour and 8 hour experimental films, and longer than that. Days long, weeks long. But that's experimental, and I'm not going to get into that. That's more like abstract art, and not really art. But for the regular consumer of movies, you have to thank the producer. And I'm not talking about the film producer. I'm talking about the gaffer. I'm talking about the grips. I'm talking about the best boy. I'm talking about the catering service. I'm talking about all of the credits people that get their due. I wonder what that issue is. Wonder what that is about. When you see those names, I see those names like, oh, those are good names I can use for a story. But I look at them as like people seeing their family member. The joy they must get seeing. Oh, there's my name right at the end of the clip, right at the end and during the credits. That's me. So Cannes is a fount of creativity. Is a fount of making your way in the world, and knowing that you have enough gall and enough confidence to go ahead with your life, to make sure that you are possible, that you are a real human being. Because that's what movies are about. Exploring the human condition. Exploring what it means to be a person, a human being. That is what's so true. That is what is so real about this. When we discover the fact that we know what we're doing, that's an illuminating portion of our existence. That gives us wisdom. That gives us the opportunity to see in on ourselves. The screen reflects back on us like it's a mirror. It holds up, to the world all these ideas packed into one picture, one moving picture. As Scorsese likes to say, the picture. He's of a different era, but he's still ticking. He's still making movies. It's like Clint Eastwood. I gotta give respect to him as well. His movies really shook my world. Gran Torino. Again, you can say this is a classic expected situation. He's gonna have the surly old man and the young man find common ground somehow. I'm not going to tell you somehow, but they do find common ground. But Scorsese, oh my God. His movies, he runs the gamut. He's known for movies like Goodfellas, Casino, stuff like that, but he's also known for Hugo, a children's movie. He's also known for Silence, a movie about these religious order. These filmmakers take it upon themselves to produce something of value and of worth. They make sure that we have something to say for ourselves. They make sure that we have leave the audience, leave the theater being pumped up. I know I was pumped up when I saw The Social Network. Woo! That threw me for a loop, man. I'm not gonna lie. I was pissed off. I was pissed off at myself. I said, why am I not that smart? Because I'm not that smart. I'm smart, but I'm not Mark Zuckerberg smart. What he did is amazing. Now, people call him evil. Mr. Turing calls him Damien. And all that is cute. But what he did to transform the idea of what the web could do and where it could go, he should be lauded and applauded. And they should add a technology Nobel to, and add his name to it, because he just took so many aha moments. I love the aha moments. Point where he says nobody walks around with a sign on them that says that they're singular. Wait a minute, like, and even before that, with the face smash, picking girls on their hotness or not based on their Facebook. I mean, that could be, borderline adolescent, borderline crossing the line in a way. But the response it got, 22,000 hits in a few hours. 22,000. Rashida Jones just looks like, that's all right. I see you. Like, she looked like she was like a little, moved by that. But I mean, just the way he built it, and of course had the drama of Eduardo Saverin, his whole story, and with the Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss twins. Of course they had to have the taught legal battle and battles that entailed. All that came along because of 14 pages. 14 pages. Aaron Sorkin didn't even read the whole book. He just took it. He took 14 pages. Like, look, I got this. I can take on this without regard, without a problem. And what does he get? He got the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay. And that's what Cannes does. Cannes does, has its jury prizes and awards, but everybody is looking for that Palme d'Or. Everybody's waiting on that, golden laurel that is presented to those who make it possible for all the different treasures that are within these films. And like I said, with Scorsese, he had, Goodfellas. Goodfellas was another movie that blew me away. It's so cinematic. It's so energetic. And you have to think, certain people, when it comes to that, certain people have the wherewithal and like Thelma Shoemaker, who has edited many of Scorsese's films. She has edited a ton of Scorsese films. And that's a part of it too. We have to look at that. We have to look at all the people, all the functioning parts that go into a movie, like the editor and the cinematographer. Robert Yeoman, he has been a photographer. He's been the DP or director of photography for how long was it? Wes Anderson for so long. Most of his movies have been by him, and it is a joy to know that my favorite film director, Wes Anderson, had somebody at his side to do this. It's such a pleasure that it's such a pleasure that somebody could work with somebody so long, just like Thelma Shoemaker with Scorsese. It's such a wonderful thing. And what is so special about having these people understand what it is that they're doing, that's what keeps it, interesting. That's what keeps it so fresh and new. That's what keeps people coming back to the cinema. Now, Wes Anderson. I don't know why. He had Wes Anderson start with Mark Mothersbaugh. He started, doing music for him for a while. But now he switched to Alexandre Desplat or Desplat. And he is continuing on with his huge ensemble pieces that make it, all the more special with the fact that he has so many people now who are engaged in the various aspects of what it means to be a filmmaker. And like I said, Wes Anderson is my favorite filmmaker. A lot of people say, "Oh, his whimsy, it's whimsical." I bypass all that. He has a lot of emotion. He has a lot of thinking. He has a lot of engagement in his. And yes, there are certain scenes that seem, like, okay, this is kind of almost cartoonish, in which I, would, not favor so much because I don't like his stop motion movies. He's made at least two I can think of: The Fantastic Mr. Fox and Island of Dogs, or Isle of Dogs. What is so amazing is that Wes Anderson has continued to be, one of the best players within this game. He is distinct. He is the one that people make the most parodies of. And it's almost like a backhanded compliment, but I think it's kind of just a compliment. There's Star Wars, horror, all kinds of different parodies that go along with Wes Anderson's perfect symmetry on the screen, his quirky sense of dialogue, his music selections, all of that comes into play. He does this by making it so that he knows what he's doing. He never loses confidence, I don't think. I think he knows exactly what to do with every scene he wants to do. And he's not like some carnival barker and the cliched version of a director yelling and screaming at the actors. He brings them to the side and very quietly says, "Oh, maybe we could try it like this, or maybe we could do it like this. Maybe this could happen. You think you could do this? You think you could do that?" He's very polite and very assertive at the same time, which is a feat that most people cannot achieve. They're either too submissive and say, "Oh no, I don't really, I'm not sure about this scene, but I'll shoot it anyway," or they're too demanding. "Oh, you must get on your mark. You must hit this mark this right now. You can't do this. You can't go off script. There's no ad-libbing. You can't do that." I don't think there's any ad-libbing in the Wes Anderson movies. I can't think of any instance where that has happened. Maybe it has, but I can't think of any. Not to my knowledge. It's a fact that I truly treasure the fact that I was able to at least go to one of his films while I was in the theater, even though it was one of my least favorite, Isle of Dogs. But the story is still compelling. It's still, engrossing. The fact about these dogs that are exiled on this, basically a huge garbage pail, and they have to figure out what they want to do. And their names, Rex, Chief, Boss, they all reflect that they're leaders, that they're the top dog. And it just, it's very interesting. My favorite movie of all time is by Wes Anderson, Rushmore. I took to that movie and I must have seen it at least 20 or 30 times. I'll be watching it this year, in the fall. It'll be 25 years since it was released in 1998. 25 years. And it's been inducted into the National Film Registry at the Library of Congress. I don't know why. I don't know why that one was picked. It wasn't as most popular. Wasn't as most profitable. Maybe it's the passage of time. And this happened years before. This didn't just happen recently. So we have to regard our lives in a way that we get spiritual fuel. We get spiritual fuel from artwork, from sculptures, from literature, from cinema, from movies. The portrayal of these characters is so important. It's something that makes us glued to this set. Now our TV screens for the most part. And people can make conspiracisms. Oh, Hollywood started COVID, so people will sit home and watch streaming services. Nonsense like that. Come on. But what is true is the fact that we can enjoy these films. These thousands upon thousands of films that have already been made. There's some 200,000 to 500,000 films that have been produced. Think about all the ones that are in development hell. The ones that are shelved. The ones that aren't able to see the light of day. For whatever reason. Time constraints, money problems. And just consider the amount of people that it takes to craft a film. Like I said, there are so many people. There's a whole collection of people. But it's still singular. It's still individual. Each individual is not just a cog in the wheel. They're their own person. They're a human being making something of beauty, hopefully. But when you have someone like Scorsese, who I compare to the rapper Jay-Z, and Wes Anderson, who I compare to the rapper Ye, and I'll tell you the differences in a moment, and the likelihood of saying those things. I know for a fact that there is a connection, and it starts off sometimes in childhood. Something like when I was watching The Wizard of Oz, blew me away. When I was watching The Jungle Book, that animation blew me away. I'm talking about the 60s version. It might be 1967, something like that. With Baloo and others. Mowgli. Shere Khan. It set me on a different path. And even, TV series now. So many TV series are cinematic and dramatic and look like they should have been shot for a big screen. But what are we doing? We're watching movies on our watch. We're watching movies on a tablet and a laptop and our TVs. That's what's going on. I want to say that there's the connection. I say Scorsese had a quote. I can't remember the exact quote, so I'm just gonna paraphrase. But he said, he was saying how about Wes Anderson. He's like saying how great a filmmaker he was. And that's like Jay-Z saying Ye was such a great artist. And Ye shares some of Wes Anderson's aesthetic. And there's a funny site you can go to now called Kanye West, WES, Kanye West. And it has his different lyrics applied to to Wes Anderson films, different scenes. And Scorsese is like that with Jay. Jay's, sometimes, very brash and, harsh, just like a Scorsese movie. It's gritty, it's nasty, there's shady figures, but there's some beauty to it somehow. Just like a Jay-Z song and a Jay-Z album. So I always equate those two. But Kanye West also has different directors as well. That I mentioned previously, Quentin Tarantino and Spike Lee. If you combine Quentin Tarantino, Spike Lee, and Wes Anderson's aesthetic, all their aesthetics together, you'll get a Kanye West figure or a Ye figure. That's where we are right now. That's where we're headed is a complete explosion. There's going to be a complete explosion where more kids are going to be behind cameras doing major motion picture deals at the age of 19 and 20, maybe earlier, 13, 14, because there's labor laws for these kids, and they're in place so that they know when they can study and when they can be on set. That's the beauty of our system. It's not capitalist. Don't get confused. It's semi-free, semi-capitalist. It's leaning closer towards capitalism than anything else. In everything that we are and everything that we do, movies are definitely ingrained in our skin, in our spines, and our thoughts. Films are the things that really take off in our minds. We remember scenes. They give us power. They give us strength. We remember scenes from different films, including such fare as The Color Purple. Until you do right by me, everything you're going to do is going to fail. I paraphrase that. I don't know the exact quote, but that was close to it. But that just, gives you the integrity. You're fighting for a wage, increase with your boss. You just remember that scene that pops up in your head. And you say, you're going to do right by me. I don't care if you like me or if you don't like me. You're going to do right by me. That's the power of cinema. That's the power of film. That's why we go to the movies. To get spiritually charged. To get our souls refueled. To get that power system going again. That's why we do everything we do. That's where we are. That keeps us motivated. That keeps us agitated at times. It keeps us aggravated at times. We're so annoyed by certain characters. And that is the benefit and the plus of the actor or the actress. We're infuriated with certain characters so much that we pass them in the street and say, I don't like you. It's an actor playing a role. It's not a real person. But the fact that they portrayed their characters so well and ingrained in the person that they were the villain. They were the nasty person. And the flip side is the truth as well. We have all these superhero movies, people going back and forth with capes on and goggles and utility belts and full body armor suits. Are they the heroes? Of course not. But I have to give them credit because little kids, at least, and grown kids alike in their 30s and 40s, that dress up for cosplay and go to Comic-Con and go in these different places, it's totally a different way of viewing life and what it has to offer. It shows us that we're more than what we expect us to be. And with these superhero movies, tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars have been generated based on theme parks, playing cards, t-shirts, not just the movies. So I think that's even beautiful in that respect. But you can't say it's the same thing as an art house movie. You can't say it's the same thing as a film directed by Martin Scorsese or Wes Anderson. It's a totally different ballgame. So I challenge you, go out, see these movies. See Killing of the Flower Moon. See Asteroid City by Wes Anderson. Understand what they mean to you in your life. And I hope you enjoy them just as you enjoyed this show. Thank you very much and take care.